This ancient scroll predicted today's world. There's a scroll written over 2,000 years ago, before electricity, before global commerce, before any human being could travel faster than a horse. And in its pages, it describes our world, not symbolically, not vaguely, with precision that makes you stop breathing. It describes a system where no one can buy or sell without a mark, where information travels instantly across nations, where one authority governs the flow of wealth, where truth becomes whatever the majority believes. The ancient writers called it the final pattern. We call it Thursday. What did they see that we're only now living? Welcome back to Mysteries Behind the Scroll, where we examine the documents history tried to bury and discover they were never meant to stay hidden. This is episode 6, and today, we ask the question no one once answered. Did the ancient world predict our present, or create it? Let me introduce you to a text. Some call it prophecy, some call it apocalyptic literature, some call it dangerous. It appears in various forms across ancient traditions, biblical manuscripts, apocryphal writings, fragments discovered in desert caves. But the core pattern remains the same. The text describes a future age, not through technology, not through machines, through human systems. In symbolic language, it paints a world where one system controls commerce, identity is marked and tracked, information is centralized, truth is enforced by consensus, resistance is economically impossible, and the masses willingly participate. Now, let me read you something. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark. That's from the book of Revelation, chapter 13, written around 95 AD, nearly 2,000 years before credit cards, before digital banking, before QR codes, before any concept of centralized economic systems. And yet, it describes a world where commerce itself becomes conditional, where access to the marketplace requires identification, where participation in society demands a visible sign of compliance. But here's what most people miss. This wasn't a prediction about technology. This was a prediction about control. Let's walk through what the ancient text describes and what we see today. The scroll speaks of a mark that all must receive, a sign without which economic participation becomes impossible. Today, we live in a world of digital identities, biometric scanning, social credit systems in some nations, verification badges, authentication protocols. Your ability to access banking, to purchase goods, to move through society, increasingly depends on provable identity within recognized systems. The ancient scroll didn't need to know about blockchain or facial recognition. It only needed to understand one thing: that power always seeks to identify who obeys. The ancient texts speak of a single voice that goes out to all nations, a message that reaches every ear, a truth that cannot be questioned because it is everywhere at once. Today, information flows through concentrated channels. Algorithms decide what billions see. Narrative consensus forms in hours. Dissenting voices are filtered, flagged, removed from the platform. The scroll didn't predict social media. It predicted the human desire to control what others believe. The prophecy describes a system where survival itself is tied to participation, where stepping outside the approved structure means losing access to food, shelter, trade. Today, try living without a bank account, without digital payment systems, without approved identification, without participating in the frameworks that govern modern commerce. It's not illegal to step outside. It's just impossible. The scroll didn't predict technology. It predicted dependence. Here's the detail that haunts me most. The ancient text never describes this system being forced on an unwilling population. It describes people accepting it, requesting it, seeing it as progress, safety, convenience. The mark isn't violently imposed, it's gratefully received. Does that sound familiar? We don't fear our tracking devices. We call them phones and carry them voluntarily. We don't resist identity verification. We see it as security. We don't question centralized information platforms. We check them every morning. The ancient writers understood something we're only now remembering. The most effective control is the kind people choose. Now here's the question everyone asks. If these writers saw the future so clearly, why didn't they just say it plainly? Why speak in symbols, beasts, numbers, cryptic imagery? The answer is simpler than you think. They had no language for what they saw. Imagine trying to describe the internet to someone in the year 95 AD. You can't say global digital network. Those words don't exist. You can't say instant communication across continents. The concept has no reference point. So what do? You describe the pattern. You say, a voice that speaks to all nations at once. You describe the effect, not the mechanism. Symbols transcend time. A literal description of technology becomes obsolete within decades, but a description of human patterns under power. That remains true forever. The ancient scroll doesn't describe smartphones. It describes surveillance. It doesn't describe blockchain. It describes identity enforcement. It doesn't describe social media. It describes controlled information. And those patterns repeat. Symbols also protect the message. If the ancient writers had explicitly named governments, systems, or specific powers, the text would have been destroyed within a generation. But symbols? Symbols pass through. Symbols are dismissed as metaphor until the moment they become literal, and by then, it's too late to stop the pattern. So here's what the scroll is actually warning us about. Not technology, not progress, not even control systems themselves. It's warning us about voluntary surrender of autonomy, about accepting comfort over freedom, about choosing security over truth. The ancient prophecy doesn't condemn the tools. It condemns the trade. Here's what the text says will happen. People will exchange independence for access. They will accept oversight in exchange for participation. They will abandon discernment in exchange for consensus. They will stop asking, is this true? And start asking, is this approved? And here's the part that should terrify you. The scroll says this happens not because people are stupid, but because they are reasonable, because the system offers genuine benefits, because stepping outside truly does mean hardship, because resistance becomes lonely, difficult, socially punishing. The prophecy doesn't describe tyranny. It describes a cage you build yourself, one convenient choice at a time. And the moment you realize you're inside, you discover the door locked from the outside. So here's what I need you to understand. This scroll didn't predict machines. It predicted human behavior under power. It didn't foresee technology. It foresaw patterns that repeat whenever authority seeks total participation. The mark, the system, the universal voice, the economic dependency. These aren't inventions of our age. They're strategies as old as empire. Rome had its grain dole and citizen registration. Babylon had its loyalty oaths and royal decrees. Egypt had its state-controlled commerce and identification papyri. What's different now? The scale, the speed, the inescapability. For the first time in human history, the pattern can go global. For the first time, the system can be universal. For the first time, there's nowhere outside the structure. And that's what the scroll was warning about. Not the tools, the totality. The ancient writers knew something we keep forgetting. Human nature doesn't change. The desire for control doesn't evolve. The willingness to trade freedom for security remains constant. What changes is capacity. And now, the capacity is complete. So when you hear someone say, "This ancient scroll predicted our world," they're not talking about lucky guesses. They're talking about pattern recognition. The ancients didn't see our technology. They saw us, our choices, our tendencies, our willingness to participate in systems that promise safety but deliver dependence. And they wrote it down, not as prediction, as warning. The question is, are we still capable of hearing it? If this video made you think differently about the world you're living in, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of people who aren't afraid to look at what the ancient texts actually say, not what we've been told they say. Next week, Episode 7. The Secret That Was Removed from the Book of Enoch. There's a passage. It was in the original manuscripts. It described something so specific, so undeniable, that it was cut from most versions, but fragments remain. And what they say will change how you see everything. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. Because some knowledge doesn't wait. Until next time, keep questioning.